What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sports Square. My name's Ty, and today we're going to be revisiting a team that I'm not really a fan of. We're going to be revisiting the 2015 Denver Broncos, who ended up winning Super Bowl 50 in Peyton Manning's final NFL season. If you guys enjoy these revisits, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more of these. They're going to be a series exclusive to the channel here at Sports Square. Anyways, to start with this Broncos team's run, we need to go back to the 2014 season, where the Broncos were defeated 24-13 by the Indianapolis Colts in the 2014 divisional round. Following yet another playoff exit during the Peyton Manning era, head coach John Fox and the team agreed to part ways after 4 seasons and 4 AFC West titles. On January 18, 2015, the Denver Broncos hired Gary Kubiak as their new head coach. He was John Elway's backup quarterback for 8 years, so the connection was there for the hire. He had also been the head coach of the Houston Texans for seasons prior to this one. The only major moves that the Broncos made in the offseason of 2015 between the 2014 team and the 2015 team was re-signing Demaryius Thomas, Brandon Marshall, and tight end Virgil Green. And the only new acquisition that they really made was trading for kicker Brandon McManus. Heading into the season, expectations for the Broncos were really high. Peyton Manning was 39, and no one knew exactly when he was going to retire, although everyone knew that he only had a few years in him at most. The Broncos' defense was stronger than ever, with star power from Von Miller, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr., and an aging DeMarcus Ware. The only real challenge for the AFC West crown this year was the Alex Smith-led Kansas City Chiefs. The preseason went fairly well, with the Broncos going a respectable 3-1, although, like I've said prior, the preseason doesn't mean anything when it comes to a championship, with their only loss being to the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 22-20. The regular season started off pretty strongly for the Broncos, and that's definitely an understatement, as they started off with a 7-0 record. The defense was the story of these games, as the Broncos' defense only allowed 20 points or more twice, and allowed no more than 24 points in any single game. The next game for the Broncos was against the Colts. Obviously, with the Colts knocking out the Broncos last year, and the Broncos having Peyton Manning, who, as everyone knows, played for the Colts for many years, made this game more important than it was already, with the Broncos trying to keep that undefeated record alive. Anyways, the Colts stormed off to a 17-0 lead at halftime. After a punt return touchdown and a long Emmanuel Sanders touchdown, the Broncos tied the game at 17. But the Colts ended up breaking the Broncos' unbeaten record after winning the game 27-24. In this game, Peyton Manning unfortunately tore his plantar fascia. He would play in the next game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but was eventually pulled after he was clearly in pain and struggling in that game. After Peyton Manning's injuries, the Broncos had to turn to backup and former ASU quarterback Brock Osweiler, who had never started an NFL game prior. The Broncos finished off the regular season with a solid 12-4 record, good enough for first in the AFC, a first-round bye, and home field advantage. Some interesting stats for the Broncos included Manning having his worst statistical year since his rookie year in 1998. The Broncos had 2 players get 700-plus rushing yards in Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson. Demaryius Thomas had over 1,300 yards receiving in a season where Peyton Manning only played 10 games. Brock Osweiler ended up playing 8 games, and although he didn't light up anything, he still led them to quite a few victories, so he didn't really hurt the team that much. The Broncos' divisional round opponent was set, as they would be starting their playoff run against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had defeated the Cincinnati Bengals in the wild card round and finished the regular season with a solid 10-6 record. They were the 6th seed, so the Broncos obviously went into the game as heavy favorites, but with Roethlisberger and Bryant, the Steelers still posed as a threat, although Antonio Brown's injury definitely hurt them. In the divisional round game against the Steelers, the game started off with the Broncos kicking 2 field goals to give them a 6-0 lead after struggling to move the ball despite getting great field position on their first drive. Following the Broncos' second field goal, the Steelers moved the ball down the field with the help of a 42-yard run by Martavis Bryant. They eventually got the first touchdown of the game through a 1-yard run by Fitzgerald Toussaint. 2 more field goals, one by each team, made the score 10-9 Steelers going into halftime. The Broncos' offense was clearly struggling in this game, but the Steelers weren't doing a whole lot better. In the first drive of the second half, Chris Boswell made another field goal, giving the Steelers a 13-9 lead. McManus made another Broncos field goal shortly after. On the next Steelers drive, they moved the ball quickly down into Broncos territory. On the fourth play of the drive, Broncos corner Bradley Rohde stripped the ball off of Tressant and DeMarcus Ware recovered it, giving Denver the ball back. On the ensuing drive, the Broncos finally got their touchdown of the game through a 1-yard run by C.J. Anderson. They scored the 2-point conversion attempt as well, giving Denver a 20-13 lead with 3:04 left in the game. The Steelers attempted to come back, but Ware sacked Roethlisberger on a fourth down, ending the comeback hopes. The Broncos ended up winning the game 23-16 and advanced to the AFC Championship game. Following the divisional round, the Broncos now had to face the second-seeded Patriots in the AFC Championship game. This also turned out to be the final NFL matchup between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They'd played each other 16 times in the past, with Tom Brady winning 11 and Peyton Manning only winning 5, and this is including regular season and the postseason. Starting off this game, the Broncos wound up scoring on their first possession with a 21-yard Manning pass to tight end Owen Daniels. Later on in the first, Manning threw an incomplete pass to Ronnie Hillman, but it turned out to be a backwards pass, and after a Patriots challenge, it was ruled a fumble. The Patriots scored on the ensuing drive after the fumble, but Stephen Gostkowski missed the extra point, making the game 7-6. Next Patriots drive, and Von Miller picked off Brady, and after another touchdown pass to Owen Daniels, the Broncos held a 14-6 lead. After one field goal by each team, at halftime the score was 17-9 Broncos. The third quarter was a defensive battle, with the only points scored being a Patriots field goal. At the start of the fourth, Manning overthrew Jordan Norwood in the end zone on third down from the Patriots' 13-yard line. McManus made a field goal, instead making the score 20-12 Broncos. After turning over on downs, the Patriots got one final shot to tie the game. On 4th and goal, Brady found Rob Gronkowski for a touchdown to make it 20-18. However, they failed to convert the 2-point conversion with seconds left, meaning the Broncos squeaked out the win 20-18 and were heading to the Super Bowl for the first time in 2 years. As the Broncos prepared for the Super Bowl, their opponent turned out to be the Carolina Panthers, who had finished the season a league best 15-1 due to an MVP season from quarterback Cam Newton. Both teams had firepower on the offensive side of the ball and elite defenses, so this was sure to be a battle. On the Broncos' first drive, McManus managed to give the Broncos a 3-0 lead off of a field goal. On the second Panthers drive, Von Miller stripped Cam Newton, and Malik Johnson recovered the ball in the end zone, giving Denver a 10-0 lead early. In the second quarter, the Panthers finally got on the board through a 1-yard touchdown from Jonathan Stewart. The Broncos would add a field goal at the end of the half like they did in every single playoff game before this, making the score 13-7. To start the second half, the Panthers drove down the field, but kicker Graham Gano hit the upright, missing a crucial field goal early in the third quarter. McManus then made yet another field goal, making the score 16-7. In the fourth, Panthers defensive end Coney Ely stripped and recovered the ball from Peyton Manning, and Gano made a field goal that drove the score to be 16-10 Broncos. With 4:51 remaining in the game, the Broncos wound up getting another turnover on the Panthers, with Von Miller stripping Cam Newton yet again, and this play ended up getting the Broncos another touchdown and 2-point conversion to make the score 24-10. That ended up being the final score in the game, and the Broncos won their third Super Bowl in franchise history. The Super Bowl MVP ended up being Von Miller, and for good reason. He had 2 forced fumbles in the game, including one for a touchdown. This Broncos defense was elite all season, so it was fitting that a defensive player won Super Bowl MVP, and their best player all season had been linebacker Von Miller. This ended up being Peyton Manning's final NFL game, as he ended up retiring a month after Super Bowl 50. Not many players end up retiring on top, but it was good for Manning that he could end his legacy with a second Super Bowl and his second different team that he won it with. After several years of coming up just short, the Broncos finally ended up winning the Super Bowl again. This was Manning's second Super Bowl, and his arrival finally paid off for Denver after sticking with him for 4 years. The Broncos had definitely declined in the last few years, but this Super Bowl definitely reduces the pain of them going 6-10 for the past few years. If you guys enjoyed this revisit, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and let me know what team I should revisit next. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys. The Broncos were the Super Bowl champions and on top of the world in 2015, and they actually earned a lot of bandwagon fans because of this. Anyways, I will see you guys later. Bye.